Thank you very much for staying and for coming to this. We did initially have around an hour scheduled, but I'm going to be a lot shorter because we've got the awards presentation and everything. So I will skip through this. But feel free to ask any questions afterwards, for example, when we're mingling after this. So what I'm going to briefly focus on is how to write a successful PhD proposal. But this is also applicable to any research which is often small-scale, collaborative, but can also be applied to large-scale research. So it follows a basic guideline for general research proposals. So it's aimed at somebody who wants to do a PhD proposal, but it can also be used for writing a bid, for example, or writing a research proposal for 20, 30,000 to 300 to 4,000, okay? It's a basic guide. You don't have to follow it all, but this is generally how we would look at doing a successful research stroke PhD proposal. Great. So I'm going to go through it, discuss the stages of the proposals, what a proposal is, and just some brief tips about writing your research PhD proposal. Okay, writing a research proposal, writing any research proposal, is going to detail how you plan to do your doctorate, or your research. You will need to include research methods, why you want to use them, identifying other projects that have done similar things. You also need to provide an effective way to solidify your ideas and discover exactly what you plan to study. It's got to be clear, it's got to be concise. Any PhD proposal, any research proposal has got to be clear and concise. So what is a research proposal? A research proposal presents your idea or your question and the expected outcomes with clarity and definition. It should make a case for why your question is significant. What value does your work bring to your discipline and why? What it shouldn't do is answer the question. That's what your research does. So with this, you propose a question, but you don't answer the question. That's for 3 years' time when you've done your PhD, for example. Proposals are about giving the question, not necessarily answering the question. Okay. What else does it enable you to do? You detail the central ideas of your thesis, the questions, the aims, the objectives, the main theme, and you demonstrate originality. When somebody reviews a research proposal or they review a PhD proposal, they look for originality. It's no good doing something that 5,000 other people have done in the past. Originality. Why does your topic deserve funding? Why does it deserve attention? You've got to use your expertise to demonstrate that. So your proposal is your way of showing that you have critical thinking skills, you have the knowledge and the resources required to answer your question, to devise your question and eventually answer your question. So let's go through the stage. So we're now thinking about writing a research proposal and a PhD proposal. As I said, they're very similar. You need a title first. You need a thought-provoking title to grab attention. Yeah. So you can't have a boring title, a long boring title. You've got to think about something, yeah, which grabs attention. Yeah. It's got to be sexy. It's got to grab the viewer. You know, it's got to grab somebody's attention. Yeah. If it's long and laborious, they might think, don't know about this one. Let's look at the next one. So the first thing is a title. Yeah, a thought-provoking title. Then you need an introduction section. Yeah. You construct an introduction which outlines the research question that you plan to address. Why is that question significant? And how does it contribute to the discipline? Yep. Your questions, your aims and objectives require clarity. Yep. Your question needs to be understood immediately. Yep. If a reviewer cannot understand your question in 5 seconds, you're in trouble. You need a good question, yeah, which somebody can understand immediately. If your question is 10 sentences long, someone's going to question, do you really know what you're doing? Yeah? It's got to be a question. For example, what are the lived experiences of patients with HIV? And what are the most effective interventions for addressing their issues? Yeah? You can all understand that question, yeah? You also need to outline a theoretical framework to encompass your specific research. So theoretical frameworks to encompass your work is also very important in social science, psychological and behavioural research in particular. Okay? Are you still with me? Am I going too quick? Okay. Third, you need to provide evidence that you know all the current literature and the evidence base. Yep. Thirdly, you will need to write a literature review with all the available evidence. Yep. Using the most up-to-date evidence. Yep. Demonstrate how your studies can bring greater understanding to the current evidence base. Yeah? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the evidence base? And how is your methods, your approach, going to provide a solution? So you need to have an understanding of the evidence base, but how does your work contribute to the evidence base? So that's the third thing that you probably need to do in terms of this. Really important, fourthly, you need to outline your research methods. This is one of the most important parts of a research proposal or a PhD proposal. Yep, the research methodology. So you need to carefully outline, are you going to use primary and empirical research? Is it going to be a scoping review? Yep. If you're going to use empirical research, what are the research tools? So, are you going to use questionnaires? Are you going to use focus groups? Are you going to use in-depth interviews? Yep. You must justify their use. Why is this methodology appropriate yet? Justify why it's appropriate yet. Ensure that your research methods link to the question and the theoretical framework. Yep. Include your sample. Yep. How are you going to get your respondents? Is it going to be a qualitative convenience sample? Is it going to be a generalizable quantitative sample? Yep. Really be clear, how are you going to obtain your respondents? Yep. You can be very general, yeah? You don't need to go into full interview guides, but you could include some potential questions. So fourthly, your research methods, yep, is going to be really important to any proposal. Lastly is your conclusion, yep. Your conclusion will bring together everything that you've previously spoken about, yep. And it's going to emphasize why you believe your research is valid. Yeah. Why is it appropriate? Remind the reviewer why your research should receive funding. Yeah. Why should the university select your PhD proposal? Yeah. They will have hundreds of applications. Why does your PhD proposal, your research proposal, why does it stand out? Yeah. So you're going to make sure your proposal makes your research stand out, and when you write your conclusion, you're going to bring that together, yeah, to remind the reviewer why they should choose your research proposal. You may discuss some of the constraints of your study and the context of your investigation, because that shows critical thinking. But ensure that most of it demonstrates validity, originality, and appropriateness. Yep. Of course, that's going to be at the end. Most reviewers will want to see a timeline of your research. So you will need a timeline. What you expect to achieve in the months and the years ahead. Yeah? This demonstrates that you have given adequate thought to your research. Yeah? And it enhances, it does enhance whether your research will be chosen. Yep. Include a timetable that demonstrates you're familiar with the process. Yep. Consider how long each stage is going to be. Yep. The reviewer wants to see a good constructed timeline. Yep. If you say you're going to do your PhD in 3 years, they want to see that. Yep. You don't want to be doing your PhD for 12 years. 3 years is bad enough. You want to get it done as quick as possible, yeah? Timelines will prove to the reviewers that you've really given adequate thought to all this, yeah? Am I persuading you to do research proposals and PhD proposals? I do hope so. Great. Other tips, yeah? Always communicate clearly, yeah? Use short sentences. Don't use technical language, yeah? Don't try and show off, yeah? It's only a proposal. It's a research proposal. It's not your PhD, yeah? I read PhD proposals and it's almost like they're giving me their PhD already. 3 years work. No, yeah? It's a proposal, for example, yeah? Be analytical, yeah? Be critical, yeah? Look at the research from new angles. Question the research. Question the evidence base. Find gaps in the evidence base to justify your research. Reviewers always look for critical skills and analytical skills. Yep. Designing a question is a critical skill. Designing a methodology is a critical skill which reviewers look for. The key words are description, analysis, and criticality. Then originality and appropriateness. Yep. Introduce details gradually in a logical order. Yeah. So by using these guidelines, you are using a general logical order which will structure your PhD proposal and make it comprehensive. Yep. You are the expert, yeah? When I review PhD proposals and when I review research proposals, I think to myself, is this person an expert? Yeah? Do they know more than I do? And most of the time, yeah, they do know more than I do, because you are the expert. Yeah? So show off. Show your expertise, yeah? You are the academic or vocational expert in this, yeah? I'm not the expert, yeah? I'm just the reviewer. Yep. So it's about demonstrating your in-depth understanding, yeah? Be focused. Don't waffle. Yep. Waffly work, too broad work, puts people off. Be very focused. Be realistic, yeah? Don't say you can do 10,000 interviews in 1 year, yeah? Don't say you can, I don't know, do a sample of a representative sample of everybody across Asia, yeah? Nobody's going to believe you. It's got to be realistic. Yeah, there's got to be realism there. Yeah, so that relates to this in-depth and focused. Yeah. Always understand the requirements, yeah, of the institution or the university or the funder. Yeah. Spend a few hours looking at their requirements. Yeah. If they say, yeah, they want a 5,000 word research proposal, don't go and do a 50,000 word proposal, because they'll rip it up and they'll put it in the bin. Yeah, I've done that before. You know, I've written something for 10,000 and I go back, oh gosh, they only want 3,000. So really be clear about what they want, yeah? Calm your enthusiasm a bit, yeah? And guide it to requirements, yeah? And that is a skill of research, yeah? Tailoring your response to the requirements of the funder, the university, or the publisher, yeah? If you publish articles and the article should only be 6,000 words, make sure you only do 6,000 words, for example. And it's the same with a PhD proposal. Yeah. Always get somebody to proofread your proposal. Yeah. If you get somebody to proofread the language, proofread the structure, it could be a friend, it could be a partner, it could be somebody who's not deeply involved in your research. That always works. As an academic or a writer, you will often find it difficult yourself to find problems within that research, because you are so committed and you are so grounded within it. Proofreading, yeah. Even if you have to pay somebody to proof it, it's worth doing it. Yeah? It takes more stress out, yeah, because PhDs and research, we know, is stressful enough. There's some of the work that you might want to refer to if you are thinking about beginning a PhD, or if you're thinking about beginning a small-scale research proposal. But fundamentally, this is the structure that most institutions, as I've mentioned here, are the ones that they are generally looking for. And I'll just repeat them once more. Sorry, I'm going. Yep. So your title, that's the easy bit. Your introduction, section 2 would be your introduction. Section 3 will be the current evidence base. Section 4 will be your research method stroke methodology. Section 5 will be your conclusion, and obviously section 6 would you'd have some references. So obviously anything that you cite in the proposal, you obviously need to reference. So that's a basic guideline to writing a PhD proposal stroke small-scale research proposal. Most institutions, most funding organisations, most publishers, if you're writing an article, although we know that's different from a proposal, will expect something along those lines. I'm really sorry that I've demonstrated to you in 15 minutes a PhD proposal. I know there's a lot there. Feel free to have the slides or to get in touch with me for anything else. I'm always available to answer questions and give help on writing PhD proposals and writing research proposals as well. But if anybody's got any questions, then, and I know it's really late now and everybody wants their reward, so I will understand if you don't have any questions, but I'll just give you any opportunities to do some questions. Sure, yeah. That's obviously not exhaustive, but if you're doing a social science, behavioural public health, these will get you off to a glowing start for some of these. But I think this will be available anyway, so it will be available